Sorry, yes, sir.
Hi there, friends. I'm Scott Wakefield, lead pastor at First Christian Church of Greene County, Tennessee. And I am joined tonight by
Sally Fletcher.
And we are going to have a coffee convo. You got to hold the awkward pause. There you go. And you got to say coffee convo with me.
Oh,
so
okay.
Coffee
convo.
There we go. Yes.
Is that better?
Yes. This is a chance to get to know Sally a little bit. So a good convo with some good coffee. Actually, I'm lying. Tonight it is sweet tea and water. So good pals sweet tea and good Greenville water. And to get to know Sally a little bit. So we are live, so jump in on the comments and let us know you're here and help direct the conversation so that you can get to know about Sally and what she does and what she's like and the work of God in her life and get really deep and serious and like try to... She's like, let me go ahead and show you my personality right now. Good stuff. So, Sally Fletcher, tell us who you are, how you got here to tonight, and meaning like from zero to tonight, and where you're from, and family history, and all that good stuff.
Okay, so I'm Sally Fletcher. I grew up in Greenville. Lived in Greenville all my life until I got married.
Are you second generation Greenville, Greene County, third, what?
Second.
Second.
Mm-hmm.
So painters have been here a couple generations.
Yeah. Well, my dad's Washington County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
gotcha.
He was from Washington County, and my mom actually she was from Alabama. So
okay.
She moved here, but
cool.
when she was in high school, but they lived in Greenville, and I grew up in Greenville. And then when me and my husband Scott got married, we moved to Washington County, where my dad's family was from, and we've lived there ever since.
Cool.
We have 2 children.
Yeah.
Wade and Samantha. Wade's going to be a senior, and Samantha's going to be in 8th grade.
Cool.
So nervous breakdown next year.
Indeed. Prepare emotionally for that.
Yes.
Yes.
We stay pretty busy with them all the time.
Yeah.
I graduated from Greenville High School, and I've been at Tusculum View as the nurse there for 12 years.
Yes.
And
how many people know you as Nurse Sally?
Well.
And how many people know you as something other than Nurse Sally?
Well, I've got 2 older brothers, so I grew up as Mark and Johnny's sister. So
where are you in the...
I'm 3. I'm the third, and I'm the girl.
Gotcha.
So I was just their sister.
Yes.
And so I've never really been Sally. Now I'm Nurse Sally, or Wade and Samantha's mom.
Now I bet that more often, I mean, people know Mark and Johnny, of course, but I bet more often than not, Mark and Johnny are Nurse Sally's brothers.
A lot of times, yes, they are.
Out
they
in the
are.
community, yes.
they are. So, but that's a little bit about me.
How did you and your husband meet?
How did we meet?
Tell us about all that. And some good stories or embarrassing things,
not really,
especially about Scott.
Well, I mean, there's not really. He's very quiet, and so there's not a whole lot of embarrassing stuff about him. We met around town. We were cruisers.
Is that how you met?
That's how cool kids meet, you know.
Even we've been here almost 19 years now, I guess. And there was still a little bit of cruising culture when we first got here.
I can remember when I was a kid, there was a car lot across the road here from the church, and we went to church in Washington County, and it's about 30 minutes away. And I can remember my mom and dad had this huge car, and me and my brothers would sit in the back seat, you know, my mom and dad in the front. And when we would get to Tusculum Boulevard, traffic would be backed up all the way down the road, past the car lot, and I would lay down in the back seat because I didn't want anybody to see me.
Are you serious?
Yes.
You laid down?
Yes, I did not want people to see us. So, and I was little, but I mean, it wasn't, you know. But
I've heard people talk about how
it used to be a big thing.
A big thing down Tusculum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you met cruising.
Yeah. So.
And what about Scott did you first notice?
Oh my!
And think like this dude I kind of like.
He was. I mean, he was nice. I mean, you know,
he was
just real. He was friendly
and normal.
I don't know that he was normal.
What does that mean?
I'm just kidding. He's normal.
He strikes me as normal.
Yeah, he's pretty
and
normal.
healthy.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really quiet, which I'm not. So we kind of even each other out most of the time.
Do you wake up ready for the day and talking and going?
No. He gets up and he's usually got a day's worth of work in before I'm even out of bed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a late sleeper.
So
But
he's sort of a typical male, up early, getting stuff done. Working.
Yes. Get it done.
Yeah.
I'm the typical female. Let's stay up late at night when everybody else is in the bed, and let's get this stuff done.
So you're a party animal.
Yeah, wild. Yeah.
So let's talk about you, personality-wise. You're an extrovert, energized by people, not.
I'm an introverted extrovert. Is that a such thing?
Everybody says that every time.
Well, and I'll tell you, COVID has ruined me. It's ruined me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm ruined.
Yeah, wrong.
Earned.
Yeah.
That's earned.
Yeah.
Gotta get it.
Oh, so there's not. You doesn't even start with an R.
No,
really.
it's earned.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. But it's made me like to stay at home more, and that's not like me. It's kind of weird, but yeah, I'm an extrovert, and Scott's an introvert.
Would you say you're energized by people, or
if it's the right people, yeah. I guess.
You're like, Scott, this is not very energizing.
Yes, it is. It's good.
And would you say you are a thinker?
Oh yeah.
Ideas or a feeler?
Oh well, gosh.
What do you mean? When you said yes to thinker, what were you thinking?
I overthink things.
Oh.
I overthink
So you keep
things.
like your brain is always.
Yes, and after things have happened, it's like, oh gosh.
You're still thinking
Maybe
about
I should have done that different. You know, did I mess that up? What did I do wrong? Oh my gosh. So I guess I'm a feeler because I always feel like everything's, you know.
Are you going to be able to sleep after this tonight?
I'm probably not. I'm gonna replay this
Everything
and go, I should not have said that.
Yeah, I totally do the same thing.
Yeah.
That's why I'm on Adderall right now.
Yeah, I probably should be. I need to talk to my doctor about that.
Are you, what kind of, in your relationship with Scott, my wife and I, we're both kind of fighters. And there's not really one of us that avoids much. But some, marriages are like, one's the fighter, one's the peacemaker, one's a, more confrontational, one will sort of not. What are you in your relationship?
In my relationship?
Scott.
With Scott, I'm the fighter.
Okay.
He's the, let's just go on. Let's get past this. And I'm the, no, let's keep it going. Let's fuel this fire just a little bit. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, get at it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm the nagger.
I am more than my wife.
Yeah.
And early on in our marriage, that drove her absolutely bonkers.
Mm-hmm. It drives me crazy
bonkers.
that he lets things go. I'm like, you should really still be thinking about this. Bring it up some more. Yeah.
What about being a mom? You mentioned Wade and Samantha in passing. What about being a mom has been the most satisfying, enjoyable part of motherhood?
Satisfying and enjoyable. I've enjoyed seeing them accomplish things.
Yeah, like what?
They're both. I don't know that. Wade plays ball and Samantha's a cheerleader. But she's not quiet, but she's kind of like her daddy. She's quiet, but she's not quiet. Like she likes to go out there if she knows you, but she has to have that little push. And so she's a cheerleader. And when she started doing that, it was kind of like, I don't really want to do this, but I want to do this. And so once she got started doing it, she loves it. And it's kind of fun watching them do things like that, kind of stepping outside just a little bit. And Wade, he plays ball, and just watching him enjoy that. I enjoy seeing him do things like that.
Where does he play?
He plays on the field. Well,
or is he
I'm going to sound like every other parent. He's a utility player. He can play anywhere you put him.
Everything.
He really does. He doesn't catch. He's not a catcher. He's not a first baseman. But anywhere else you put him, he can.
So he pitches too.
He can play. Yeah, he's a pitcher.
Really?
Yeah.
What would you say of those positions he's best at, and which one does he like most?
Middle infield, he's probably best at.
Okay.
Or center. because he can cover a lot of ground. He's really fast.
Oh, yeah.
But he enjoys pitching, and he's good at it.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. But he enjoys it a lot.
Why do you think he enjoys pitching most?
Because he's in control.
Yeah. I was going to say, as soon as you said pitching, I thought, I would want to be the pitcher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he likes to be in control of
because
things.
there's a sense in which you are managing a lot of what's going on in some ways with how you're pitching.
Yeah.
And I think that begins at the high school level. Before that, it's like you're just throwing it.
Yeah.
But high school and college, you begin to be a central part of what's going on behind you as well. Cool. So let's talk about nurse, Sally.
Okay.
You have been an elementary school nurse for how long?
12 years. I started when Wade was in kindergarten.
Okay.
So I've been at Tusculum View the whole time.
Okay, yeah.
I kind of went around to the other schools a little bit, but I've not been there all the time. I've primarily been at Tusculum View.
Okay.
I started there the summer before Wade started kindergarten. I got the job, and Pat Donaldson was the principal there, and we were on vacation at the time that she called me. I had interviewed just before we left for vacation, and she called me while we were on vacation and said, want to offer you the job. And I was like, oh, I got to talk to my husband. So I hung up the phone and I went and talked to my husband. I said, Scott, I got this job, it's a pay cut, but I'll have summers off. I'll have snow days off. And, Wade's starting to school, and where were we going to send him? We didn't know. So I went back and called her, and I said, well, I want the job, but can Wade go to school there? And, of course, we were tuition, so we had to make sure that there were spots available.
Yeah.
And thank goodness there was. So it was a God thing, you know. So I got the job, and the rest is history.
You helped nurse and care for my 3 kids, my current one and going into 3rd grade this fall. What is a typical day as a nurse at elementary school like?
It's different every day.
Yeah?
Every day is different, which is something that before I went into school nursing, I didn't like that. Like, I like to know what I'm going to face each day. I like to have a plan. I like to have everything, figured out before it happens.
Right.
I can't do that.
But it's almost the opposite. You cannot dictate what's going to happen by any...
No.
Yeah, of course.
Somebody has a sense of humor. He does.
And you were doing pediatric office stuff before.
Yeah.
In a way which I assume sort of fits like what you said. You would know what's going on before you went into the room, and you knew what kid with what, et cetera. Yeah. This is the opposite.
No, it's almost like working in an emergency room without the doctor there with you. Sometimes I feel like, because we're like on an island all by ourselves. We're the only nurse in the school.
You're it.
It's not like we can call up and say, hey, what do you think about this? I mean, we can call them after the fact, but you got to take care of business.
You got to do something first.
Yeah. So it's...
That strikes me a bit because it's more, obviously, as you're saying, than I assumed it would be. You'd think it'd be the same kinds of things most of the time. And there probably is a number of categories that are similar, but it all emerges, and you are not in control of what's going on.
No.
It's happening to you.
Yeah, and it changes like quickly. Like I may have a day where it's like, okay, this is a really quiet day. I don't say that very often, because as soon as you say, oh, it's really quiet in here,
you got
it breaks loose. But
yeah,
for the most part, it's pretty even keel. But when those days happen, it's...
What part of your job as nurse is, and there might be other categories that I'm naming, but what part of it is medical, and what part of it is, and this is true of anybody in healthcare, of course, but it also strikes me that with elementary kids especially, there's a little bit more of this part of the mothering, nurturing, caring emotionally, helping them through it, talking through it, and the medical part obviously is there.
Yes.
What percentage of that typically is the case?
For the most part, honestly, probably 75-25. I mean,
75 of the
which
caring.
One do you think? What do you think?
I'm thinking more of the caring, emotional, nurturing part of it. Yeah.
It really is. And it's funny because when I was younger, I thought, I want to be a social worker.
Oh, really?
And my husband was like, you're a social worker, you're going to come home crying every day because you care about everything and you worry about everything, and oh my goodness, you know, this is going to be a hard road for you, you know. And now I'm kind of like a social worker. I mean, you know, I mean, it's a lot of just loving, and you're going to be okay. A lot of that.
75-ish, 25-ish.
Not every day, but
no, sure.
but a lot of times.
Well, that's important. I mean, that's what the kids need in those circumstances. And also, one thing because our kids have all been at Tuscan View, one thing I've appreciated about that dynamic is it sort of feels to us as parents like, and we know, teachers fill this role, and certain administrators who are there, and you know that they're there, are filling that role. But it's also felt like it's going to be okay because we know Nurse Sally is there. Yeah. As parents, we go away with a very clear sense of that, because so much of that is a nurturing thing. If something happens, it's going to be okay. So, and I've watched this some with our kids. Every time you see a kid in the community, they're running up to you and hugging you like you're one of their best friends. I mean, it's got to be every other time you see a kid, they're running up to you like that. That's probably pretty satisfying. It really is. I've said before, for you, like at school, like when we walk through the hall, because sometimes at school I'm kind of an out of sight, out of mind kind of person, because when the kids see me, sometimes they need to go see the nurse. You know, they might get a tummy ache when they see Nurse Sally because, I get to get out of class. I think I remember feeling a little bit more that way about it. Personally, And so I kind of try to stay behind the scenes a lot when I'm at school, you know. But when I do get out, and the kids are like, "Hey, Nurse Sally," I'm like, "Oh, they love me." I mean, it's just really exciting, you know. I don't know. It's just, absolutely. It is. I'm tracking. It's very satisfying. Yeah. And I'm the type person. Some people don't need that, but I'm the type person that needs that. You know, some people are like, I don't care if people like me or not. Everybody needs it. Well, the others are just lying. I think you're right. But some people need it more than others. But I'm like, you know. Yeah. So we all need the sense of importance about who we are and what we do. Yeah. And a sense of place and being in that right place. Yeah. Whether you call it freakish, people-pleasing, weirdo stuff like me, or just normal, healthy people. Right. Yeah. Like, I'm assuming you and not so much me. So we have lots of questions. Okay. Oh, Lord. Which is good. Good. Thanks, y'all, for jumping in. Not big ones. Do I get to check them before you ask them? No, you don't get to check anything. That's the whole thing. That's why this is a coffee convo. It's live. Tell us the best tooth-pulling strategy. I can't give those secrets away. Something that would surprise us about you. I will say, and this is kind of not nice, but because I try to trick the kids sometimes, because they say, "Oh, I've got this tooth that's wiggly," and I'm like, "Oh, let me check," and I'm like going in there with the determination that I'm going to get this tooth out of there, and the kids don't realize that, and so I'm like wiggling, and I'm pretty determined that it's coming, but the kid's like, "Oh, she's still wiggling my tooth," and I get the tooth out, and I'm like, "Do you think I'm going to get it?" And they have no idea. And I'm like, "Look, I got it." And then they think it's the best thing ever. I think it's the best thing ever. When you did that for our third last year or something at church in the morning. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you did it at church in the morning. Yeah. So that was pre-COVID. Was that pre-COVID? Yeah, it was pre-COVID. Just to make sure that's out public. Just to make sure everybody knows, yeah. Okay. It was exactly a year and a half ago. That's right. Pre-COVID-19. It was February. So thank you for sharing your best tooth-pulling strategy. Something that would surprise us about you. Oh, gosh. I don't know. I'm kind of out there. Everybody knows everything. I mean, I'm like, I don't know. Is there anything that's not out there that... wouldn't think so. I'm very, you know. So there's nothing that would surprise us about you? Is there anything that would surprise you about you? No, that I'm sitting here having a coffees and convos with you on live Facebook kind of surprises me. Cool. You've already answered a little bit of this, but the best part of working with elementary school kids? They love you. I mean, you know, and even on the bad days. Yeah. And even sometimes when you're grouchy, they still love you. So it's kind of nice, you know. Yeah. That's true about little kids. They're very forgiving. In a way, yeah. They're just very unconditionally cool with you. Mm-hmm.
That's why I've always liked to work with kids.
Yeah.
I like little people.
Adults can be hard.
They are hard.
And not so much.
Adults are hard.
Not so much automatically, unconditionally
No,
pro
they're not quite
you.
as forgiving.
So what's the hardest part of working with adults in elementary school?
Well, the hardest part is saying the right thing. I'm always worried about saying the right thing. Sometimes you have to smooth things
To
over.
a parent
Yeah.
Okay.
And you hate to send sick kids home sometimes, and
Yeah.
well,
Gotcha.
Tommy might have perfect attendance, and you've got to send him home because he's sick. I'm like, I'm sorry, don't.
Yeah. What are some other circumstances like that where it may be difficult to communicate to them some things, like they may not have somebody to be able to stay home with them and
Right.
they're working?
Yeah.
Are there other things like that make it hard?
Really, that's one of the hardest things. I mean, I, for the most part, have a pretty good relationship with most of my parents when I call them. I just
Sure.
try to be open and honest, whenever I talk to them. I'm like, look, if this was me in that situation, this is what I would do.
Right.
Or this is what I would want somebody to do. And I try to think that, not that I don't mess up, but I try
Right.
to think that whenever I handle,
What
hard
percentage-
situations.
What percentage of when you're delivering? I think about this kind of thing a lot, because in pastoral work, some of what you're doing is you're saying things people don't always love hearing, or that are hard to deal with personally and live out. What percentage of those conversations that are perhaps, and they may not be hard typically, but what percentage of those conversations end up being someone giving you difficult feedback or coming on strong at you and being kind of a punk back to you?
Honestly, I don't have it a lot.
I wouldn't think much.
It's really not that bad.
Good.
I don't meet a whole lot of opposition
All right, good.
for the most part.
All right.
I mean, really, because I would have a hard time with that, and I don't typically have a hard time.
That's good, because I was
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
go on a rant
No need to rant.
on how parents are impossible and difficult. That's what I was about to. Okay, good.
No,
That's what I.
it's actually pretty good.
All right, cool. That's what I. Thank you. Good. About how many splinters have you pulled out as a school nurse?
Oh, a lot, and that's one of my favorite things. I
Really?
love to pull teeth, and I love to get splinters out. I guess because I don't do a lot of. I mean, I do nursey stuff. That sounds silly. I'm a school nurse, but I don't do nursey stuff. But it's one of the nursier things I get to do, I guess, because nobody else in the school wants to do it. I mean, they're like, "Oh, a tooth! I don't want to pull that tooth," or "I don't want to dig that splinter out of that kid's foot."
What's the weirdest thing you had to take out of a kid?
Well, I have. This has been years ago, and it's really gross. But I did have to get a bug out of a kid's ear.
Nice.
But that was I was in an office, with the doctor and stuff.
Nice.
I don't do stuff like that at the school. I'm like, if I look in the ear and I'm like, ooh, there's some in there. You need to go to the doctor.
We're gonna have to send that one off.
Bye bye.
What's the weirdest thing? Do the adults come to you with splinters?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
And
yeah.
things like that?
Yeah, quite often. I see my teachers a lot.
Do you officially, as a school nurse,
Take care of the big people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? I've never.
I
even
tease
thought of
them all the
that.
time and say, I'll just send you a bill for the copay.
Yeah.
I don't take all insurances, but some I do. I can be bought with food. I mean, they know if they feed me, I'll do good. So
Nice.
yeah,
So when somebody shows up with brownies for you, you know something's coming.
they always know that I have to taste them to make sure that they're okay for everybody else. Just look out for everybody.
Yeah, I feel that way too. It's quality control.
Yeah.
It's like when the people in the court have to make sure that the king, the cupbearer,
Yeah.
the king lives.
Yeah.
You gotta taste it first. I saw you shared a memory from playing sports the other day on Facebook.
Gosh, that was a long time ago.
What sports
too.
did you play growing up?
What sports did I play growing up? Well, I played a lot of dodgeball. No, I'm just kidding. I played softball and I played basketball.
Okay.
I played basketball until I was a sophomore in high school, and then I played softball all the way through high school.
Cool.
So.
And you went to GHS here?
I did. My brothers went to South Greene, and I was the oddball. I went to Greenville. So, yes.
Which did you like better and why?
What
sport?
Which sport? Oh, I loved softball. I loved softball.
Because
It's I really don't know why I liked it more. Basketball, and as an adult, I like baseball and softball a lot better because it's slower. Basketball, when I get in that gym, I'm like squirrel. It's like there's way too much going on. And I was better at softball than I was basketball, so that's a lot of why I liked it.
I'm a team sports guy, and I've always been team. But I've grown to appreciate a little more sports that are more individual and team. And baseball is very much like that.
Yes.
It's a bunch of individual plays happening one after the other after the other. And it's you're not passing the ball a whole lot, even though you do have to throw it. I went through a phase of 20 years of loving softball. Church softball was a big deal for me. Yeah. Now, of course, our balls were bigger and they were coming probably a third as fast. Way slower than that.
Oh, yeah. Slow pitch softball's like...
A third's not even close.
Yeah.
It's a tenth as
and they're back further, too. I mean, like, they're, like, in your face.
Yeah. Speaking of athletic ability, does Wade get his athletic ability from you or your husband?
Oh, from me.
For sure.
No, I'm just kidding.
Obviously.
From both of us, but...
Did Scott do sports growing up?
Scott played football.
Oh.
He played football. He'll tell you he played one game of baseball. He got hit, and he never played again. So he didn't ever play baseball.
Cool. You've answered some things around this, but it's a good way to ask both these questions. What's the most rewarding part of your job, and what's the most challenging thing about it?
Most challenging thing about it? Well, we have when you have sad situations and stuff, and you have to take care of kids, that it's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
COVID
has been
it's been really
more of that.
Yes, it's been really tough, and a lot of kids, and I tell my kids this all the time. Not everybody has a mom and daddy that wants to take care of you. And it's hard sometimes. So, but then on the other side of that, it's very rewarding because those kids love to. They love to see you. They love to be at school, and they love, what they get at school, and so.
So, calling a parent to say, "Hey, your kid has been close to somebody who apparently tested positive for COVID," has been something you've had to do recently.
Yeah.
What have you learned about that challenge? No specifics, because of course we'd be violating a bunch of laws.
Well, I'll tell you.
What kind of challenge has that been, and how's it been?
It's been
something
really.
You've learned.
It's been hard. It's been hard because kids and parents have had to miss things that they didn't want to miss. Ball games and such, and myself, both of my kids have been quarantined from school and had to stay out and had to miss things, and actually, and I try to tell parents, whenever I had to face that with telling them, your kid has to stay out or whatever, I would say, listen, I've had to go through this too,
right?
And I've had to have my kids tested when I really wasn't sure if they needed to be tested. But in the back of my mind, I knew that if I was talking to another parent, I would tell them, you would have your kid tested. Right. So I had to do that with my children.
Yeah, we did.
And
you called us or talked to us.
This isn't really what I want to tell you.
Sure.
But this is what I have to tell you, and I've had to do it myself, and so that's kind of made it a little bit easier. Hey, I've been there.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's been a tough year.
Yes, it has, for everybody.
Indeed. If you weren't a school nurse, what do you think you'd be doing instead?
If I were not a school nurse? Yeah. Hobby Lobby's looking really good. No, I'm just kidding. I would probably want to be back in a pediatric office.
Yeah.
Or with a surgeon. I would like to work with a surgeon.
Really? Why is that?
Yes, because I love surgery. With one person.
Physical
yes.
Parts of it all?
Yes. Yeah. And the of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Do you like watching those shows?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yes. I love the medical shows, and the grosser the better.
Really?
Yeah.
My wife is a little bit that way.
Yeah.
So, what is it about that intrigues you?
I don't know.
'Cause it disgusts
it's kind of
me.
weird. Well, when I watch it, I think, gosh, it's
It
kind
is
of
a little
warped
gross
a little
and-
bit, but
yes.
I like it.
Because it's fascinating that something so weird and gross and strange and foreign, really, because it's not like we're walking around with our innards.
Right. Right.
Which is a weird thing to say as soon as I say it. But it's always fascinated me, even though I think it's like I would never be able to do that. I don't think I don't know.
Yeah.
But I am fascinated by the concept that stuff works.
Yeah.
Somehow.
It is. Yeah.
And that you can go in and do things to fix things.
And then it goes back to working
and
again.
it still works.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really.
It's crazy. The other thing about that's crazy to me is that for all the technology we have, and I say this as if I would understand what I'm really saying, but I don't even watch the shows like you and my wife do. But for all the technology we have, because medical technology is amazing, and yet it's still like surgical stuff is still like cutting and like hammering and drilling and pounding things and sewing. It's very primitive, and I don't know. It just fascinates me that all that weird stuff can happen, but it's all very primitive at the same time. So you like that, huh?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay, so if school nursing doesn't work out, we'll
find me a surgeon to work for.
Yeah.
Or Hobby Lobby, either one.
Nice little comment here, in the vein of what we've talked about quite a bit tonight. We are almost over. You said these 45 minutes were going to be a long time. I'm telling you, it has
gone by pretty fast.
I told you.
I'm not sure how much entertainment everybody's gotten out there.
They're all
I can't
like-
wait to hear.
This comment says, we want you to know that our community is so much better because you are serving at Tusculum View Elementary School.
Oh, that's sweet.
You're a bright spot there. Thank you for how you love the kids and give comfort to us parents that our kids are well cared for.
Oh, I'm going to cry.
Yeah, my wife says totally agree.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that's true. That's why we asked you in the first place, because of how you serve our community in that kind of a way. In a way that makes people feel like, as a parent, my kid's there, I can't be there, but I know that they're well cared for. That's something we've very much valued about our schools, and our kids, all three being at Tusculum View in this case. I think it's cool that teachers, administrators, and others like you on staff who have been there for a while know our kids as they've come through. That's something I didn't have growing up, and we moved a lot. And so I know that for us, we very much value that kind of regular, healthy presence in our kids' lives. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. I know my mom worked at the school that I went to growing up. And my mom and dad, their house was the place to go. My house growing up with my brothers and myself being in sports and stuff. I mean,
Kids from the
just
neighborhood
in
coming
and out
out.
all the time. And my mom cooked. My mom was a cook.
Cool.
And she was a good cook. And my dad actually was a cook in the Army.
Really?
And so, I mean, there was always food at the Painter house.
Nice.
And so it was kind of nice to have people in and out. And I always wanted to be like that too. I wanted people to feel comfortable with me. So I kind of wanted to be my mom.
So your
when I
own
grew
personal
up.
sort of vision for healthy, stable presence in the community came from you experiencing that. Yeah. That's super important. And I think it's something that is I don't know if dying is quite the right word, but it feels like that.
Yeah.
In even our rooted southern community here, people have more material and personal control of their lives. They can travel easily. Everybody's got a car. So I just, it's much harder to sustain that. How has Greene County changed in your time here that you've seen?
It has changed so much.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, and I think in general, times have changed and you can't be quite as trusting as you used to be. And, Greenville was not somewhere that you had to worry about stuff like that, you know. But it's changing
Yeah.
with the times, which is sad. But unfortunately, that's the times we live in.
Yeah. Even we have seen, I mean, we've only been here 19-ish years, almost, I guess, 18 and a half. It's been interesting how even when we first got here, and it's not that long ago really, but there was very much a sense of Greene County is its own sort of place and community and culture. And now we're in the middle of Nowheresville, Tennessee, compared to like a lot of what's around us. And yet we have people visiting from New York, Florida, or other parts of the Midwest, or Deep South every single week at church. It's very much a place that people are wanting to come and live in. What parts of Greene County, like they're wanting, because they didn't have, do you appreciate about living here?
People have always said that people are friendly here.
Sure.
And welcoming, and it is family oriented.
And that's still true enough
it is
compared to lots of parts of the world.
Yes, and I mean, I'm kind of sheltered. I've been here all my life. Like, I've never been anywhere else. Like, I've visited a couple of places, but I've never been a lot of places.
Right.
So I appreciate that, but I don't think I appreciate it like I should, because I've not seen.
In contrast to the rest, when we first got here from Chicago, and Chicago was a radically different place, of course, because if we saw somebody we knew out in the community, it was like hey, I've never seen anybody else around that I know, because I don't see anybody I know. It was like a family reunion if you saw somebody from church, or even if you saw somebody like that your kid played ball with, but it's not like you're good friends, but you happen to see them out somewhere. It was a small, sudden sliver of community that we weren't typically seeing. We come to Greene County, and I realized, every store I go to, there are church people. Hey, it's like everywhere you went. It's a little less that way now than it was, but still is that way now. We would drive out here on Hope Road, and I remember thinking, why are these people waving at me as they drive by? and I remember, seriously, the first few weeks I kept looking around like, I guess so. Hey. But as you were saying that's something that I appreciate about it. Yeah. Still friendly, and that still is the case here.
Yeah.
What else do you like about Greene County?
Really, that's my favorite part. Is just like you said, being able to go somewhere. There's not a time that I go anywhere that I don't. I always want to see somebody I know. So I think that's why I don't like to go other places, because I'm always like looking around, like I'm going to see somebody that I know somewhere else.
I've noticed that exact same thing, and maybe that's part of the extrovert thing. I'll go somewhere else, and I'll be like, I'm looking at the cars as if, and then I'll catch myself thinking, you dummy.
I'm not home.
You don't know these people. Yeah.
But before you go home, you will know somebody, because you'll talk to somebody, right?
That's true.
Part of being an extrovert.
That's true.
So you're trying to decide which person you want to know.
So when you go to a restaurant, and it's not somewhere like Greene County where you likely know somebody, are you, because I know I'm this way, I'm kind of like looking around to try to like figure out who people are and try to get to know them and start up a conversation.
I look at people and I think, I wonder what their story is.
Yeah.
And my husband Scott says,
don't do it.
You'll know their story before we leave. Because I remember my nephew had open heart surgery when he was first born, and we were at Vanderbilt in Nashville, and a McDonald's in the hospital.
Yeah.
And they had taken my nephew back for surgery, and they had said, go get breakfast and come back, and, he'll be done. Okay. So we went down there, and there was a situation with the manager and a customer. And I needed to know what was going on. I didn't even know these people.
Of course you
But I
did.
needed to know what was going on, because I'm nosy like that. It's just the way it is.
Cool.
And so I'm all in their information, and Scott's eating his breakfast, getting ready to go back upstairs because he's done. He doesn't care what's going on.
Yeah.
But I'm not eating my breakfast. He's like, you need to eat. And I'm like, wait a minute. Let me listen. I mean, something could be going on that I need to know about.
That's right.
But he's like, no, you need to eat. Let's go. Oh, okay. So I never did find out, what was going on. But I needed to know.
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot.
Yeah. You're a people
But yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, me
And
too.
nosy.
In that way.
Just like to know what's going on.
Sure. Last couple questions. You said you grew up. You kind of wanted to be your mom. As you grew up, you kind of wanted to be your mom. Was she your primary role model? If so, how else did she inspire you?
Oh, well, I don't kind of want to be my mom. I want to be my mom.
Yeah?
She's a superhero.
Cool.
She can do anything. I mean, like, you mention it, and Peggy can do it. You know, she can cook, she can clean, she can sew, she can make you feel better. She's just, she's been all that to not only me and my brothers, but to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's been a pretty big role model
Cool.
in my life. Her and my daddy both.
Yeah. Your parents both still living?
No, my dad's passed away. He passed away October, almost 6 years ago.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, growing up a painter was a good place to be, huh?
It was.
Cool.
It was.
Cool. Well, we're glad to hear about your life and have you join us on Coffee Convos. And it wasn't too bad, was it?
Was it terrible? No. I don't know. Ask somebody else how it went. I don't know. We'll see.
Thanks, y'all, for joining us. Thanks for jumping in and asking us some good questions. And thank you for being on our Coffee Convo tonight.
Awkward pause.